Hi, Minahil. Thank you for being with us today. And I know we were going back and forth a bit, but I love changing the people I absolutely want to meet. It's so important, not for me, but for my community. They are so desperate to connect the dots because they know one field is out of job, but they can always do that interdisciplinary thing. And when I came across I will be very honest, I didn't come across your profile. I came across a comment you made on LinkedIn, and that got me thinking, hey, I need to talk to her.
Thank you so
But
much for having me,
yeah,
Shona.
it's very
It's always so
incredible. Yeah, it's very incredible. And if you can just somehow let us know what was your life like, academic pathway, and now you're at Geneva. How did you connect the dots?
Oh, for sure. I'm so happy to share my journey, and it's so nice talking to you because I said this to you before. I learned so much from you, and I've always thought, okay, I will get in touch with her when I want to do my other masters and pursue my education further. So I
Okay.
haven't started yet, but I'm going to be there soon. So it's like really exciting to like touch base and just like talk through about my journey and learn from you as well.
Thank you very much. So you did your undergrad from NCA. How was your journey like?
It was honestly amazing. I spent 4 years in NCA, and initially my plan was to do architecture, but and I got into both visual communication design and architecture. And at that time, for the longest time, I had wanted to be an architect. But just before my admissions, before I had to make the choice, I got in touch with a lot of architects who were working in Pakistan, working overseas, family, friends, etc. And all of them advised me to not choose architecture because there's not a lot of jobs in the field. And it's something in Pakistan that's very like intensive. You have to be present in the field, etc. And that really spoke to me because I knew I cannot put in the physical effort that's required of the profession. And eventually I chose visual communication design. With graphic design, I already had like experience working on designing magazines, internships, etc. So it was something that I knew I would be able to do. And I at that time I wasn't sure if I needed like a professional degree,
Yeah.
like a bachelor, but it worked for me. And I had the best time in NC. I think I was very lucky with the teachers that I got. They were from all over the world. They had studied in Germany, France, the US. So we had
Oh,
really like an international exposure while I was there. And then they really encourage interdisciplinarity. So even though I was studying visual communication and I was there with like 40, 45 other students, our theses were were of so many different kinds. So there was a thesis on photography, on filmmaking, and then on VR experiences, book design, game design. So just because it's graphic design, it's not like something that's tying you to it. You can do anything. And my thesis was because always interested in psychology. My thesis was on subliminal manipulation in advertising, and it was really nice. I did like a book, and I did so much research that and designing the experience of it, coming together, criticizing the advertising tactics of the Pakistani advertising industry, beverage advertising industry, and it turned out really well. So after my experience, I knew that whatever I want to do, I just don't want to do the same thing. Like I just don't want to sit at my computer doing like either animation or just graphic design for
yeah,
social media, for example. I want to like one day I want to do photography, one day I want to do video, one day I want to do like something else completely.
yeah.
So I chose a job, and everyone told me, like, because my thesis was on beverage advertising, go work for Coca-Cola or BBDO or, like the big
Oh,
players
no.
in the advertising industry. And I
Natural.
really
Yeah.
wanted to. Yes, exactly. I really wanted to. But I chose working in-house with Pasha Fabrics. So they had an in-house design studio in their office, and that was such a good experience for me. Again, I worked there for a year because, again, it was a Pakistani brand, a very traditional Pakistani brand, family run. And they were looking to expand, but they didn't want to compromise on their values and their ethics. So they really wanted to keep that Pakistani touch, but
Right.
also appeal to audiences in the UAE, in India, in the UK. And for that, they got someone. So they got the CEO of an advertising, one of Paris's biggest advertising agencies, BTC Paris, to come and deliver a branding anthropology lecture to us to drive us through the exercise. That was, I think, in my career, still like the best experience that I have ever had learning from someone who has worked for brands like Loro Piana and Xenia, all the
Yeah,
brands that I always see on YouTube. I know I'm never going to buy
yeah,
them.
yeah,
But it was so good seeing, how if he's designing an Hermes store, how is he going through the process? Because it's simply more than just putting clothes where they look nice. It's about what you feel when you move, when you enter the store, when you're moving about it, what the entire experience is like. And we did that with Pasha. So we learned so many things, not just about design, but video, choosing the right models, uh, correlating certain things to create this kind of experience, luxury experience in store. And then we experimented. So we did a branch in what's the mall in that's close to Defense?
yeah. At
You
the
know the mall.
Garden Town or Cavalier, or it will be Petal Town. Yeah,
It's Packages Mall. Yeah, yeah, okay.
it's
So we
packaging
did an
more. Yeah,
outlet
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
in Packages Mall, and then we did one in Model Town, and then they expanded, and then we did a third outlet in Karachi. So these
Awesome.
were like our big outlets, and we got to like learn from every experience and apply it to the next one. And there, even though I was a graphic designer, I was obviously like working on in-store displays, etc. That was something that was required of me, but I also worked on a staff training proposal on how the staff who assist you in store can deliver a more luxury experience. And I never thought that I would be doing that, considering I was like a graphic designer
Incredible.
at that
Yeah,
point. But because it was in-house, it was a small team, and you really worked with every aspect of the
yeah.
experience. So this was such a huge part of the experience. And with this, again, I had to do so much research. I had to go talk to the CEO, and then I talked to designers who were in Dolce and Gabbana, and then it was just like surreal for me at that moment. I thought, wow, look at me. What am I doing?
Wow,
This is
wow.
amazing. So that was a good experience. I worked there for a year, and then I eventually, things start slowing down because we had established so much. So I thought, okay, I want to like switch into something else. And I had never worked in tech before. And everyone had told me like tech is the booming sector, that's where the good jobs are. And especially in Pakistan, we had companies from the US, they paid so much more. So I made a purely strategic decision because I was young, I was in the field, I had good connections in Pasha, but I really wanted to transition into other play areas as well. So I started working in RubyConf, and then I was creative manager over there. So from graphic designer to straight up creative manager. But again, it was like such a strategic move on my part. I really wanted to like have a lot of responsibility on my hands because I felt comfortable because of the experience at Pasha. And
Yeah.
there we did a lot of like event management, organizing hackathons, a lot of graphic design for recruitment. And then it was a very specific field, and I experimented with copywriting over there. So we were only speaking to Ruby on Rails engineers. So it was a very, very tiny niche, but I think being in that niche really helped me understand how you talk to, from talking to like a luxury buyer, a luxury fashion buyer. Now I'm talking to an ROR engineer who's
Oh,
probably
yeah.
not even like checking their phone too much. So it was a very nice experience in that front. Like it really challenged me, and I'm not I don't have any computer sciences background. I know very minimal coding, but I had to learn so much because if I had to write copy, I had to write it from the perspective of the person I'm talking to. And I had to like brush up on my coding skills, but it was easy. I had a lot of help, obviously. I had ROR engineers on the team where if I write an article or copy, I would always get it vetted from them,
Nice.
get their feedback, improve, and then do it, uh, propose better options. And because of the job flexibility, this was around COVID as well. At the same time, I had a lot of time. I then started working part time at the National College of Art. So I went back to my alma mater,
Nice.
and I was a lecturer over there for about a year and a half. So I started off with teaching design to foundation year students, And then COVID happened. So all of our classes were
Mm.
online, and it was intense because we spent 6 hours in our studios working hand on hands on with our students, and we had to change essentially the entire curriculum to make sure that it's catered to distance learning. Now with NCA, we
Yeah,
have students from everywhere. We have students from Fata, from Kashmir, from Gilgit, Baltistan, from Balochistan, and sometimes students don't really have like the
internet, yeah,
gadgets or the internet connectivity necessary. One of my students was constantly missing classes, and I asked her like, how can I, what can we do to help, why is this happening? And she told me she has to walk 40 minutes from her house every day just to get a stable internet connection,
I
and
love,
even that's not guaranteed, and then she has to walk back home. So I mean, obviously, like, given that this is the situation of a few students, it's very hard to design a class that, would be tailored to their requirements. So I had about like 145 students in my cohort,
wow,
and I basically created groups, and I talked to them, asked them what are the challenges that you're facing, how can we improve the lessons that we have done so far, and what is the kind of help that you need. And there were so many different responses. They preferred that I do the assignment in front of them so that they can see. And then they wanted a pre-recorded assignment. Some preferred live classes. Some preferred like I be available at different times of the day. So getting feedback from
so difficult.
140, it was difficult. It was a long process, but at the same time, I think the students, they were also tired of staying at home. They really wanted to learn as well.
Yeah,
And that's what I really appreciate. I don't know if it's an NCA thing, but I feel like most people in NCA, they're really happy to be there. They're always like, they're always so passionate about whatever it is that they're saying. Even though this was just the first year of graphic design, so these students were new in university, and
yeah,
their university had shut down, but they were still like so passionate and so interested in all of the things that we had to do. So I split the classes. So instead of having like a very strict physical sort of a project that they had to work on, we decided to integrate materials everyone can find very easily in their house, like work with dry leaves, for example,
uh,
or change the furniture of your room, or like, like move a few chairs around, take a photo of the chairs to make sure that it looks like this composition, or just work
yeah,
with paper, twist and turn it. Everyone has access, working again with materials that everyone has access to. And then at the same time, it's something that they can easily take a photo of and then submit that. And then also talking to them about how exactly you take a photo,
yeah,
and what, like giving them little hacks along the way to make their life easier. And that I think went really well. Obviously, like from my end as a teacher, I had to be available at certain different hours, extend courtesies, so that's given. And I feel like that really made me an empathic person. I really grew to understand everyone's needs are completely different. You have to be so respectful of them. Life is not in our
yeah,
control. And it really challenged me as well to revise the assignments that NCA had been, in NCA, they never really changed the curriculum. The assignments were the same for like the past 30 years or something. Like the things that I
um,
had studied in my first year were the same things that I was teaching. So essentially, I got like the chance to revise the system and create assignments for better. And that worked really well for me, because then my HODs, like, and my principal, they thought that I would be better suited to teach final year students. So from first year, I
yeah,
was promoted to
teachers
teaching.
promotion,
Yes,
nice,
exactly. So
nice,
I started teaching typography to final year students. And again, I got to revise the assignments.
then,
Yes, and we did like deep dives into not just design, but also why design is the way it is, why the principles are the way they are. So a lot of psychology, a lot of research that I feel like NCA didn't really integrate into its curriculum before, but and I felt that as a student. And then
yeah,
once I was a teacher, I was able to
getting
integrate
a
the
new
research
idea,
aspect of it. Exactly. I
yeah,
was able to make the change that I thought was necessary. And all this while I was applying for like scholarships, I really wanted to like do a master's, and I wanted to go overseas to study. And I eventually like, and I knew I could only do it on a scholarship. So I
oh,
eventually
yeah,
got a
definitely,
scholarship. Yes, exactly. You know.
yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah,
so I got the Hungarian scholarship. So it's the Stipendium Hungarian Scholarship. And I thought, okay, that's amazing. I've always loved Europe. And the day I got my scholarship letter, I went to my mom and I said, I'm going to the Van Gogh Museum in Amsterdam. And she looked at me like, why are you saying
Wait,
this to me?
that?
I said, it's because I have the Hungarian scholarship. She's told me you're more excited about the museum in Amsterdam than the scholarship. I said, no, it's just an opportunity, my way
Yeah,
to go going there. And my scholarship was in my master's was in media and communication in journalism. And when I was talking to the teachers over there, they were again super open about having different backgrounds in their lineup. So I was a graphic designer. I worked with someone who was coming from a very pedagogical background, teachers, etc., people from all over the world. And I think studying journalism in a country like Hungary, that's essentially like a dictatorship with no media freedom, helped open up my eyes to how, we kind of have similar problems in Pakistan, but how these
yeah,
problems look like it's transferred to the EU. And when I was there, the Russia-Ukraine war escalated. So there was a huge influx of refugees, and then the EU, the Hungarian landscape, because of the relations of its government, changed so much. So I learned a lot about like politics, international relations, and how I could write about them as an outsider, drawing comparisons between my country's politics and their politics. And a lot of the articles I wrote, they were they had a lot of personal touches because I was writing them from the perspective of someone, who has worked in fashion or worked as a teacher,
yeah,
worked as a designer. So there were visual aspects to it, but then there were also personal aspects to it, which was very well received by my teachers. And I got to experiment a lot. And then with my thesis as well, I really wanted to do something related to Pakistan. So I researched on how we can renovate the process of city management to make it more inclusive of people from all cultures, religions, etc., to make a city more diverse, to celebrate essentially the diversity of Lahore, and how the city branding can help essentially in that. At that point, I knew that after my scholarship, I was going to come back to Pakistan. I didn't really see myself as studying working in the EU
yeah.
for a long time. And I did apply to internships. I did do some internships over there. They were really nice. I applied for an internship to the United Nations.
Okay.
And in my application letter, I wrote that Geneva is an extremely expensive city. My stipend was only 200 euros. And
Oh,
that's like, exactly, that is, it was a
I'm
very,
trying to
the Hungarian
calculate in my mind. Okay.
Budapest at the beginning, in the first year before the war, was very
Okay.
cheap. So you could survive. You did need to like work, and my internships were not really like strategic internships. They were more like I get paid so I can survive internships. And then in the second year after the war, the prices went like they multiplied three times or so. So in the second year, I really did need a job, and I was working part-time while I was doing my master's. It was easy enough to do. I think it wasn't that intensive, but I was also studying media and comms, which is not an intensive field per se. So I was able to dedicate the time. So in my coming back to my internship application to the UN, I wrote that I cannot afford to be in Geneva. It's so expensive. I can work remotely, but I'm more than happy to. And I attached with it my portfolio, which had the best work that I had done in Pakistan, in Hungary, essentially everywhere, and I submitted it. One day before my flight back to Pakistan, I was buying souvenirs and I get a call from my now manager saying like, I loved your portfolio. I am going to offer you a job. You applied for an internship, but you mentioned that it's difficult. So I'm going to offer you a job, a consultancy. So it's going to pay you
No.
money. Exactly. And I said, oh,
Congratulations. Yes.
right. So he said that it's not very good money, but it's still like a starting stone. You will be able to survive if you are able to if you're up for it. And I said, amazing. I want it,
Yes, your
obviously.
phone. Give
So
me it.
I still flew back home because my permit was expiring, and then I started the process for my visa applications, etc. again. And
Ah,
it was a long process. I came back home in August, and then I went back to Geneva in November. I went to Geneva in November, and I've been here since then. And I'm still like, I'm a consultant at the United Nations Human Rights Office. So the UN has different branches. I work in the human rights office, and as you mentioned, like it's usually people with LLBs and LLMs, and that
Yeah.
those are the people around me as well. But with how I have experienced the UN, is that sure you can be a human rights lawyer, but that doesn't make you a good project manager. It will not make you a good communicator, and those backgrounds, they are necessary. Of course, you need like an understanding of
Um,
human rights law, humanitarian law, but you need to have one niche that you're really good at. And for me, that was my background in graphic design and visual communication and also copywriting.
Communication as
And
well. Yeah.
exactly. So that really like made me an asset over here because I could write copy and I could design and I could film and edit in ways that obviously a human rights lawyer is not going to.
Yeah.
And before as well, I when I worked with the Ruby on Rails engineers, the computer scientists, I wasn't a CS engineer myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
If I wrote something, I would get it vetted from them. So here, if I write copy, I always have to get it vetted from my colleagues in any case. And there's again a lot of research required, but it's fun research. It's something that if you're on, I work in social media, so I handle the UN Human Rights social media account. So the best part about the most integral part about the job is being present on social media, knowing what people want you to talk about, and it's very news related. It's very international relations, politics related. At the same time, you need to make sure that you're paying attention to issues like climate change. There are some issues that are not talked about, like
Yeah.
conflicts in Myanmar, Sudan, and you have to make sure that you're constantly paying attention to those news that don't really make it to like the top news section on the
Yeah.
websites. But there's still events happening, and you have to make sure that you're that you have an open eye. You're paying attention to every single thing happening all over the world. And it's challenging, but I think I really enjoy like every day is a different day. You never know what's going to happen. You never know what you're going to be working on, how you will tailor your strategy, and it's also constantly revising the strategy that you're doing working with. So when we came here, there wasn't a very the social media didn't comms didn't have any strategy per se. We
Right.
used a lot of pictures like from Getty, etc., etc. And then with me, I was like, I really want to like I like taking pictures myself, and I've always thought that if it's journalism, if you're talking about a real world issue, you should show a photo of a real world issue. But with the UN, there are so many restrictions. Like if you take a photo of a refugee, you have to make sure that you're not showing their face without their permission,
Right.
because they could be deported if they're identified as an illegal refugee, for example. And then you need the right permissions, you need the right setups, you need to show them in situations where they're not shown as destitute or helpless. You show them
Yeah.
in an empowering way. And I noticed this like in at the start. So I started in November. I started in August, and then the Israel-Gaza war happened in October. And a lot of photos that were coming from the region, they were like, crying Muslim women, just to show like this became a stereotype of like this image of war, this crying woman who has a
Right.
hijab. And that's not, sure, it is a lived reality, but it's not the only way to go about showing a Palestinian person. There's so many ways. And we really like try to make sure that we're showing all aspects of it, like not just the sad aspects of it, but the empowering aspects of it. We don't want to cash out on someone's misery, and that goes against the organization's mandate as well. So how do we use photos from the field, videos from the field, while also maintaining authenticity, but then also maintaining respect for the people that we're trying to show to the world? It was really hard. There's so many legal restrictions into it that go into it, but we did manage to like rehaul the social media strategy. We really now emphasize on communicating the principles of the United Nations, especially in this time where the UN is criticized so much for the work that it does do, but it's not always advertised like in
Yeah.
front of your face,
Yeah.
because at the end of the day, the UN cannot force states to work on something. It can advise them, but we cannot like hold a baton to their heads and say like do this, nothing
Yeah.
else.
Yeah.
So we work with a lot of restrictions, but in comms, we do our best. And more recently, my strategy, which has worked super well, was as a user, I felt like I didn't really know what the UN did. So when I started working over here, when I talked to the people working, I would ask them, but what is it that you exactly do? And I would make all of these notes, like they talk in legal lingo and jargon, and I would
Yeah,
write all of it down. And then I would sit with them and say, look, you need to explain it to me like a child. What do you do? How is it that you work? What is it that you exactly establish? And once I knew that, I knew how to communicate that to the rest of the world. And that strategy has been working really well for us so far. We get, like, since I joined, we've got like a 10 million more views than usual. We get more engagement. Our followers have grown as well. But those are my deliverables as a job.
yeah,
But then I think as an organization as well, this is really important because the feedback that we receive from our comments and then from users, I really try to respond to it in the sense that I make note of what the sentiment is and how I can address the sentiment by tailoring my comms for a better output. So it can either be through
yeah.
photo, video, all aspects of communication, like copy, photo,
Okay.
video.
I can emphasize how important it is for anyone out there internationally to advocate for themselves. And I know I'm being very honest with you. I believe in humble brag, but I believe in challenge yourself out there because the world is very noisy. You really have to fine tune yourself, like this high level of self awareness that I am bringing with myself, the all knowledge and skills, but I'm willing to grow on the job as well. The fact that you network with so many different people, especially with the legal lingo and helping them break down the comp itself. Ironic, so ironic here.
It is, and I feel like this is just my experience. I am the only Muslim girl in my team. And most of the time, like we were once designing a campaign for the MENA region. And one of the photos in our campaign, it wasn't inappropriate, but imagine that you're going to create a big visual for a largely Muslim region. And you have a photo of a girl with a very short skirt jumping over like some swing, and then even though it's like still a girl, and it doesn't seem inappropriate in someone else's eyes, you as a Muslim could understand like this might not work in this region, and no one actually brought it up. So I would actually like go up to them and say like, this image cannot work in this specific region. And then obviously like they took the advice, and then before we shared the set of photos, that is the advice we received from the region as well, so they corroborated my advice as well. And I think that's really important to make sure that when you're writing copy or you're creating a visual or campaign, you're sensitive to the region's requirements as well. You're sensitive to what the people are feeling as well. You cannot commodify, like for example, you cannot commodify refugees feelings and then say, oh look, we help so many
Yeah,
refugees, we are the saviors. That's not going to help them. You really have to empower them, tell their stories in ways that are respectful and true to their experiences, and then see how best you can do it for the audience that you're talking to. So what are your goals? For me, my goal is to get donations, to get people to click and donate. So how do I talk to them in a way that makes them open, their hearts and their wallets, and then make my campaign more successful? So it really is about finding the right celebrity that you can partner with, then telling the right story to the people, what would drive them to their cause. So I noticed that in my experience, my users are really interested in women's rights. They're interested in education. So my donation campaigns are mostly based around that. And that's like we show action. So we try to say, look, your donation is going to help this person achieve this. If you donate this much, this is what we can achieve with this amount. If you donate this much, this is what we can achieve with that. And this is exactly where your money goes. We're trying to be more transparent
yeah,
and trying to show authenticity in every step of the way that we can. And it's a long process because you're working with field colleagues, you're working with HQ, and then this final product is on social media. But there's so many legalities, so many little
yeah.
things that you have to pay attention to. And I really enjoy learning through all
Yeah,
of
I
this.
think it's very challenging. Anyone listening to you would be like, oh, you have a green job, you are working with the UN. But the fact that It's not easy. There's so many, what do we say, levels of hierarchy, levels of approval, and I really like how you provided this advice that if you're going to use advertisement, it won't work in this region. I think I came across a post yesterday where an influencer was advocating for modest dressing in Dubai Mall, especially how diverse this culture is, and they were advocating for more decency when you are coming to the mall. And I think we need to have a conversation around this. But anyone listening to you today will be thinking, how can I branch out to other related things? And the fact that you have to try it out as well. And I think you
Exactly.
tried
You
a
have
lot.
to, exactly. And you don't have to feel ashamed. Like I wrote my letter saying I cannot afford to pay to live in Geneva, so
Yeah,
I will do it remotely, but I really want to do it. And I think that really sold me. Like I knew if didn't mention that, I probably would have gotten an internship, but
yeah,
I know I would not have been in Geneva. And there we do have a lot of remote internships, and even if you have that opportunity, I would advise anyone to like take the remote opportunity at the UN as well. But
yeah,
really being in Geneva isn't just about, being in this like fancy city. It's also about making the connections. So even though I work in UN human rights, I go to events that are happening in ILO or WTO. I talk to so many people from all over the world. You get to talk to the diplomats at the different missions. So we have the Human Rights Council happening right now. I get to attend the meetings in person and really like network not for the sake of branching my professional network, but really network for the sake of education, for the sake of
yeah,
knowing more.
yeah,
And that really gets you good connections, I think. People, once they see that you're really interested in what they're advocating for, what they believe in, they tend to be more open with you about sharing their experiences, sharing their stories, and then it's just more authentic, I think, at the end of the day.
yeah, yeah. And I think I will just come back to what we talked earlier and we can wrap this up as well. I think you have mastered how we do storytelling with our digital, with our visual communication. Especially like you did understand that I cannot be just a graphic designer making websites or apps. I need to connect the story and get them out to the public here. Yeah, I think storytelling is something that is common to all things, no matter which field you are. I'm sure the engineers you were working with, they were also very inspired that, oh, you're trying to make a copy out of it.
Exactly. I mean, I have experience now of fashion, tech, and then human rights. And at the core of it, it's just the story that you're telling and how you're tailoring it to the audience that you're talking to. So understanding what your audience wants, what they are more receptive to, and then making sure that you have a goal. Like for me, my goal now is donation. Before
Yeah,
it was selling clothes. Before
yeah,
it was do something else. So understanding the goal and then tailoring your communication skills. And communication skills are of so many different kinds, as you mentioned. It's not just photo, it's copywriting, photo, video, how your website is stated, and what kind of like it's not just this campaign, it's every campaign that you've ever done. So it has to be more cohesive. Everything has to be more cohesive because everything is
yeah,
connected at the
yeah.
end of the day. So trying to like make sure that the story makes sense, it's emotional, but at the same time not very not too over the top, and then driving it towards the results that you really want to achieve.
Right, right. Thank you very much. And here you have, I will be honest, I had goosebumps. Anyone listening will have goosebumps because it gives us so much clarity that we are all creative human beings at heart. I believe we are all very creative. We were meant to create, not just consume. And that's why I feel we are having lots of mental health challenges as well because we are not giving out more to the world and we are letting it consume us. Somehow that's the thought that comes to me often. And this is one of the reasons why I'm trying to do this project. I'm trying to create more, just consuming information is killing me every day.
Yeah, there's so much to do, and at the end of the day, you, as you said, you really want to, whatever you're doing, you really want it to be helpful to someone. With this podcast, I'm sure you're helping
Yeah,
so many people as well who are going to learn. And then at work, I try to do the same, like, okay, at least I'm doing something meaningful, which is like not to say that if I was working in fashion, it wasn't meaningful, but just to say that it's
yeah,
everyone has their own niche that they're interested in. If you're enjoying the job that you're doing, you will do so much better in it. And I've noticed this for my career. And at NCA, I was so happy about going to my dream college that I would not need an alarm to wake up. I would wake up myself at 6 a.m. every single day. I would be ready because I was so passionate about it. And then it's the same over here. I love my job.
yeah,
It is very difficult at times, but I do really like what I do. And I think it really makes me a better professional because I'm more interested in like doing the research and putting in the work because I really want to do a better
yeah,
job
yeah.
in it.
Right. I wish you all the best, Minahil, and I think you will do amazing, even amazing things than what you are doing, although it's very important being at UN. I mean, it's a very coveted position that you have, but the way you accelerated your career with strategy. I love that word, strategy. It's a business concept, not so much now. It's strategy. Why are we not more strategic when it comes to where we want to work? Thank you so much. And again, thank you for being with us. Like just being open about all the up and down and sharing your funny stories. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having me. I love talking about it and
Thank you.
sharing it with you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much.